Case interviews do not test how much you know. They test how you think. When information is incomplete, pressure is high, and time is limited. Across companies, recruiters consistently evaluate five signals: clarity of structure, logical reasoning, comfort with numbers, basic business intuition, and of course, clear communication. You are not expected to know everything. You are expected to think clearly out loud. Explain your thinking, show clarity. McKinsey has publicly stated that they do not look for perfect solutions in case interviews. They look for how candidates frame problems, how they break them down, how they reason step by step. And that is the real test. Most candidates fail case interviews because they jump straight to solutions, panic when numbers appear, speak without structure, memorize frameworks mechanically, or give opinions instead of reasoning. None of this shows intelligence, it shows confusion under pressure. And here is the irony: smart candidates often fail faster. Why? Because they try to be clever instead of clear. Case interviews don't reward speed, they reward structured thinking. At Career Arth, we use a simple thinking structure for case interviews. It is called the CARE structure. CARE is CARE, and it helps candidates slow down. They organize the problem, they reason logically, and then they conclude confidently. CARE is not about finding the right answer. It is about showing how you arrived at an answer. And this is not the answer, it's only an answer. Strong candidates don't rush, they first structure it. When a case is presented, strong candidates focus on three things. What is the real business problem? How can I break it into manageable parts? What data will guide my reasoning? They don't chase clever ideas, they build logic step by step. And that is what interviewers are watching and looking for. After all, you will be guiding CXOs and CEOs in the world. Let me show you how this thinking looks in a real case interview. Suppose the interviewer says, an edtech company offering online courses is growing revenue, but profits are following. Diagnose the problem. Pause the video and ask yourself, how would you do it? Most candidates panic. Strong candidates will slow down. First, they restate the problem clearly. Revenue is increasing, but profitability is declining. Then they structure. Profit is simple: revenue minus costs. So the issue must lie in either revenue quality or in cost structure, and there is a third possibility that it might be in both. Next, they break revenue down. How many number of users are there? What is the price per course? What is the completion rates and the refund rates? And how are the costs structured? How much do you pay instructors? What is the marketing and customer acquisition cost? What is the platform and support costs? A strong candidate might say, if revenue is rising but profit is falling, my first hypothesis is that customer acquisition costs are growing faster than customer lifetime value. Then they ask for data. Suppose the interviewer reveals marketing spend has doubled, conversion rates are flat, and many users drop off after free trials. Now the insight becomes clear. And what is it? The company is buying growth, not earning it. This is not about clever maths. It's about identifying the real drivers of profitability. Did you notice something important? We didn't jump to a solution. We framed the problem. Then we structured it as profit is revenue minus cost, and then we followed the data. This is why numbers matter in case interviews. Recruiters don't expect complex math. They expect you to interpret the trends, identify the key drivers, connect numbers to decisions. Thinking with numbers is about direction, not perfection. Confidence with logic matters more than the calculation speed does. Yes, you can round off your calculations to make your maths easy. It's allowed. These mistakes lead to quick rejection, jumping to conclusions, speaking without structure, avoiding numbers, memorizing frameworks seen all over the place, using jargon, making your answers and your communication vague. Case interviews reward clarity, not cleverness. Case interviews become manageable when you learn to think in structural form. Clarity here matters a lot, and so does your logic and reasoning. So it's not about just randomly coming to an answer, but using the CARE format or framework that we have at Career Arth to prepare our students systematically. This is where case interview confusion turns into clarity at Career Arth. Case interviews don't reward smart answers, they reward clear thinking. Now, it's very important for you to realize that this is not just applicable to management cases or the cases you're planning to do for a consulting company. This applies across the board. You might have a case study interview in finance where you have to make a capital investment decision. You might have a case study interview in product marketing where you might be launching a new product and there might be competitors in that space. So how do you deal with that problem? You might have something in operations and supply chain where you have to identify a new location for a warehouse or get into quick commerce, which is the trend these days. So in all these different types of cases, depending upon the roles that you are applying for, you need to have structure. You need to be able to identify the drivers, and then behind the drivers, you need to be able to spot the trends with the help of data. At the end of the day, it is the trend that tells us in which direction the business is heading. Most of us look at trends to decide what we should do in our life. This is the new trend in fashion. This is the new trend on social media. This is the new trend in the movie theaters. So identifying the trend in a business context is very, very important. You need to leave the case with a final solution. You can't leave it ambiguous. And you need to use your time very, very carefully. Most cases are about half an hour long, unless it's a written case or a case given to you before the day of the interview. But if you have a face-to-face case study, you will be having it only for 30 odd minutes. Learn to use paper and pen, scratch paper if required, to draw your structure out. And do not hesitate in saying, can you give me 2 minutes while I put my thoughts together? That is allowed. So just like I gave you the case right now on EdTech profitability declining, somebody else might give you another case. What the first thing you ought to do is, can you give me 2 minutes to reframe my thoughts, and then I'll start. And you'll find that most people will give it to you. Remember that the interviewer who's interviewing you was also once upon a time on the other side. They were also being interviewed, right? So they've been through the process. They know the journey. They've gone through the same care framework and all the frameworks that are there. So they kind of understand where you're coming from and what your thinking is. In fact, if you don't ask them for 2 minutes to reframe your thought and jump straight into the problem, then that's a problem. Because they will start wondering, ye kya hua? Why did this person do like this? Right? If you don't explain your drivers clearly, then the data will be provided, but they will give you the data that you want. They are not going to give you the right data or the relevant data if you keep persisting on the wrong track. So you have to watch for cues. If the recruiter is saying, no, you know what, our marketing budget has doubled, but conversion rate has gone up by 10% or 20%, you got to get the cue. What is exactly happening? In which direction is this interview being pushed? Many of the case interviews are real world cases which have been simplified to fit in the 30-minute span. So you got to be able to understand that this is not a fictitious case study from some review paper, but this is actually a real world case that you are being given. End of the day, you are going to be working on real stuff, not fictitious stuff. So these are some of the other things which I wanted to mention to you, apart from how to solve a case, because they all play a very important role in you getting that critical management consulting or business analyst or any kind of mid-level position or even fresher level positions. I hope you have made some notes on it. At Career Earth, we make people practice a lot, because if they practice different types of problems using the structure kind of seeps in. The other problem is if you have too many frameworks and too many structures, then you get confused under pressure. So it's always important to keep a generic structure which you can apply and then tweak it as you move along the journey in the case interview. So these are some of the key things which I wanted to share with you. And I'm sharing this with you from both sides. I have been an interviewer and I have recruited people giving them case studies. And I have been recruited when people gave me case studies and I was looking for a job. At first in my early days, just after school, college, and then later on in mid-career professional, when I had to go through some interviews, it was a case study interview with a life insurance situation. It was very interesting. What should you do? Should you enter the market or not enter the market? It was a market entry problem. I was already in my mid 30s, had already got 10 years of experience behind me. So that is why when people ask me about case study, I want to share all the learnings I have, because it's important for you to be able to use my learnings and convert your opportunity into full-time jobs. क्लैरिटी है तो ग्रोथ होगा, ग्रोथ है तो करियर होगा, ये हमारा आपसे वादा है. Stay tuned and I look forward to seeing you at Career Earth.